Hey guys, so today is February 5th, vertebrae of the day. We're moving down the cervical spine. We're going down from C1, 2, 3, all the way to C5. The vertebrae of the day today is C5. It's the fifth cervical vertebra. It's at the apex of the normal cervical curve that goes like this. We call it the arc of life, because all of the communication and signals from the brain go down through the spinal cord at that point and feed everything with it what it needs to be below that point and beyond. So particularly the fifth cervical vertebrae houses the nerves that go to the areas of the throat. So we have the pharynx, the larynx, and then the esophagus. So the pharynx, larynx, and esophagus are all areas of the throat, starting from just below the nose, way deep inside of the face, going down into the vocal cords, and then into the esophagus, which continues all the way down and eventually goes into the stomach. So pharynx, larynx, esophagus, we are going to talk about today esophageal muscles. Now, have you guys ever heard of anybody who has experienced esophageal spasms or contractions? Maybe there's a hoarseness in their throat. Tagging along with some of the postnasal drip that we talked about yesterday from the nose being the C4 vertebrae and associated nerves. Postnasal drip, right? The mucus going below, behind, down the throat, and feeling that sensation through there, like you can't really clear your sinuses. So C5 is really, really important to me. This is actually something I talk about every day during our workshops. Now, when I was going through chiropractic school, I was able to go on a mission trip, and I went to India for about a week. And in the span of this week, we had the opportunity to adjust about 15,000 people. And so we were very, very busy working pretty much from 9 to 9 every day, 12-hour days, adjusting the entire time. And on the first day, I met a man that stood out with me just really clearly. This was a man who looked defeated. He looked broken. And when he walked in, he was very, very, very tall, maybe 6'5". He towered over me. And the problem was, it looked like I weighed more than him. And he looked like he was just skin and bone. There was just nothing to him. He was like wasting away. And so we had translators, and I go, "Translator, what's going on with this man?" And the translator shared with me that this man had such bad contractions in his esophagus and spasms that he couldn't swallow real food. So he was living on a liquid diet for the past 6 months. So immediately I'm like, well, it makes sense why he's so skinny. And his shoulders were round and his head was down. And he walked around slowly as he approached my table. So I looked for the root cause. I actually looked at his spine and his posture. I knew something was going on with the nerves in this area. So in the span of 4 days, I got to adjust him 4 times. So in the first adjustment, I balanced his posture, I adjusted his cervical spine, I adjusted his thoracic spine, I adjusted and balanced his hips, and I told him to come back the next day. And when he did, he kind of came in slowly, right? Didn't have a whole lot of energy. It didn't look like much changed. So I asked my translator, was there any change? She was like, well, he's having less arm pain. And I'm like, well, I didn't even know he had any arm pain. But hey, at least something's working. So I said, let's get to work. So I adjusted him again, okay, and I balanced his posture, and I said, come back to me the next day. Thankfully, the next day, he also found us. So he walked over to the table. This time, his head was up, his shoulders were back a little bit, and he looked curious, or that he wanted to share some news. So he approaches my table, he comes over, and he goes, I go, translator, what's going on? And apparently he was able to eat some rice later that night. And he was curious as to why he was able to do that. He was like, what did you do to me? And so I told the translator, I go, well, I adjusted the neck, and the nerves that were going to the esophagus had a lot of pressure on them from the misalignment of the C5 vertebra. And so I told him that once we take the pressure off the nerve, we reduce the subluxation and we correct it. What happens is now the nervous system function going from the brain down through the nerves to C5 to the muscles of the esophagus are able to function better. I adjusted him one last time. And on his last day, this time he came in, chest puffed out, shoulders back. He's running over to the table, excited to share some news. It looked like he was on the verge of tears. And he shared with the translator that day that he was able to eat 3 meals that day. Now, granted, it was soggy rice and things that could easily go down. But we took a man with, he lost a lot of the energy in his body, literally the skin and meat off of his bones, just the meat. And then we also brought some energy back into him, right? As he's getting food in there, we can change his energy, we can change his life, change his outlook and his enthusiasm. And in the span of 4 days, just taking that pressure off, he was able to be a changed man. He had a new life. He had hope for the coming future. And all he had to do was take the pressure off the nerves at C5 and help his body function better. When you adjust somebody, you can change your life. It's as simple as that. Sure, it may take several visits, sometimes several months. Healing takes time. We have patients who it takes several years. But when you identify those subluxations, you adjust it by correcting the subluxation, then the body's able to work better. And so the C5 vertebrae of the day, going to the nerves of the pharynx, larynx, and esophagus, was a very special one for me. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Tune in tomorrow. We're going to talk about C6. And as we move our way down the cervical spine, once we get to the bottom one, which is C7, we're going to talk about what the overall curve of the cervical spine should be and why that's important for our overall health. Tune in with us tomorrow. Facebook, Instagram. I'm even posting these on our YouTube page, Terry Chiro. And check us out. Tomorrow we're going to learn some fun stuff about different areas of the body associated with the cervical nerves coming out of C6. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for tuning in. See you tomorrow.